Yeah.
Hey everyone, welcome back to yet again another movie review on this channel, and today I am going to be talking about the latest from Ti West, MaXXXine, written and directed by Ti West, starring Mia Goth, Elizabeth Debicki, Moses Sumney, Michelle Monaghan, Bobby Cannavale, Halsey, Lily Collins, Giancarlo Esposito, and Kevin Bacon. And this, of course, is the third installment in the MaXXXine trilogy, first starting with X and Pearl in 2022, which was a prequel to X, and this picks up right, a few years after X left off, and basically we're following Maxine Minx as she moves her way out of the porn industry into being a Hollywood superstar, and kind of following her as she gets this part in this B horror film with A sensibilities, and it chronicles the mysterious killings by a mysterious serial killer taking place in 1985 Hollywood, and how Maxine may be a little too close for comfort to the killer themselves. Now, for those of you who are just tuning in, just to give you a quick rundown on my thoughts on these films, I enjoyed X. I thought it was a nice, fun slasher throwback to the 80s horror genre, but nothing very substantive. And Pearl absolutely knocked my socks off. It made my top 10 of 2022, and I think Mia Goth gives one of the greatest performances, not just in any horror film, but any film, period. Especially that monologue she gives at the end of the film is just unbelievable. So, of course, my expectations were fairly high before I heard the reactions to this film, because I really, really loved what they did with X and how it became a not only a Technicolor horror film, but a character study that's very in-depth and, very, very palpable. So, this one, I was excited to see where they picked off, and I'd say for the first 30 minutes of this movie, I was really loving what Ti West was doing with the character of Maxine, and of course Mia Goth is great in all these movies. This is no exception, but I will say perhaps this is her weakest outing as a character, and I'll get into why that is. But of course she definitely brings it in a lot of scenes in this movie, and always consistent at the very, very least. And I really love what they were setting up, like, 1985 Los Angeles. The color palette is, like, spot on. There's a lot of homages to 80s horror, of course, and also giallo films. And I think that it was starting off as this very intriguing exploration into how Maxine was feeling after the events of X, and how that's kind of taken emotional burden on her, and perhaps traumatized her in some way. And I was like, this is really cool. I'm glad the film is kind of going in this direction. And then I feel like it kind of shifts focus in the middle of the film. And I will also have to give props to a lot of the performers before I go any further in this review. Some that stood out to me, Giancarlo Esposito is like her agent. I thought he was great, and I think the first time you really get to feel his Italian roots in any movie, because he never plays an Italian, though he actually is. And I really, really loved the kind of campiness he brought to his performance, but in a way that still felt pretty grounded and fit within the context of the story. Bobby Cannavale's great when he shows up. Moses Sumney was a really fun and funny addition to the cast. I really liked his chemistry with Mia Goth and the relationship they had. Elizabeth Debicki's pretty cool in this. I definitely think the standout, though, to me is Kevin Bacon, who's chewing up the scenery every time he's on screen. You can tell he's having the time of his life with this role, and he just plays it so effortlessly and with such a ease and charm that you can't be helped but entertained by him every time he's on screen, even if he is a bit over the top, but never in the sense that it feels that way. It feels like, yet again, it's right for the story that Ti West is telling here. But on top of that, speaking of the story, as I said, the first 30 minutes I really kind of loved, and then it kept going along, and I felt like, it started focusing on this murder mystery subplot and kind of shifting away its attention from Maxine herself as a character, to the point where she almost becomes a somewhat of a passive force in her own film, which is really strange to me because she's very much, you know, in X, the one that drives the narrative forward, and I still think you get the glimpses of her that is shown in the first, like, 30 minutes of this movie, the MaXXXine Minx we've all come to know. But I feel that not only does the movie lose sight of that, it actually loses focus of what is driving her as a character, all this emotional baggage that has come with the previous movie, and kind of throws it out the window for cheap horror thrills. Because I'm going to be honest with you guys, the third act of this movie is not it. It really goes off the rails, and not in a good way. And I heard that this was a bit more campy, which is fun and all. I can appreciate some camp, but this just takes it to a whole other level that I thought was absolutely ludicrous by the end in so many ways that are just unbelievable, and felt like a lot of the events that transpire easily could have been wrapped up by a, you know, more logical script, and it felt like it was just dragged out so we could have like this climax and, you know, sort of have that final act horror thrill that we all come to expect in certain movies like this at this point. And part of me is just left wondering why, because this film leaves so many scraps on the table that are just kind of left unattended to. And I really feel like it was such a missed opportunity considering how great Pearl was. And I just feel like this whole movie is like, oh, we have to reference Psycho, we have to reference Chinatown, we have to tell everybody we're in LA. And it just gets so ridiculous and just meaningless, I think, by the end of the film. I get, you know, Ty West is very much a fan of these films, as I think we all are, but I really don't understand how that, you know, substantiates MaXXXine's narrative more than it would have otherwise. And I really feel like this movie, I do appreciate in some ways where this movie ends, but I don't think the ends justify the means whatsoever, because there's so many missed opportunities in the storytelling here that could have fleshed out MaXXXine Minx even more and made this a great conclusion to otherwise good trilogy. But this one really goes out on a whimper as far as I'm concerned. I really think that this is the weakest of the three, and I'm really disappointed. I think this is probably one of the most disappointed movies of the year for myself. And I know some people will probably enjoy it, and, you know, probably on a surface level, and I understand that. And while it is entertaining, I just don't think that there's enough there for me to really recommend this, and for it to really justify its existence as perhaps a conclusion of this trilogy. So I'm going to give MaXXXine a 5.5 out of 10. Really not a huge fan of this movie. Not bad by any means, but it's just really disappointing as, you know, compared to what they could have done and the way they could have fleshed out this character even more. I don't know. Yet again, I think Mia Goth still delivers throughout most of the film, but you're going to get nowhere near the performance like you did in Pearl. But yeah, let me know what you guys think about MaXXXine down in the comments below. Did you enjoy it at the very least, or do you agree with me on this one? Let me know. And of course, smash the like button, subscribe to the channel. I'm going to be talking about more movie reviews very soon here, and I can't wait to hop on again and talk to y'all soon. So take it easy in the meantime, and have yourselves a good one.